Moses steps in. Who is Moses? Moses represents the outcast chosen leader that spends a significant portion of his early adult years in a desert place. Moses represents the entrepreneur who experiences divine favor and great success, but then loses it all because he stood for what is right. Moses is that leader who God has allowed to prophetically see a glimpse of his glory in some weird, sometimes unexplainable way, yet not reveal his image yet, his commandments yet, and his promises until the process, say process, has been completely revealed. You are Moses. I am Moses. We are Moses. Bishop is Moses. If you recall in verse 12 of Exodus chapter 3, God says to Moses, when thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon this mountain. It was a future glimpse into a glory that had already happened, a glory that had already occurred. The process of the Israelite slavery and their subsequent exodus into the wilderness, 40 years, 2 generations, was prophetic preparation for what God had already promised to Abraham. And even though they became distracted, and of course he would always send a Moses to deliver you and to deliver them, even in your circumstance, even in this quote-unquote recession. We don't call it recession, we call it the season of opportunity. But God sends Moses to your life to say, you shall be delivered. Your promise has already happened. One can also note here that every exodus that I have identified in scripture is the equivalent of a business transaction. Verse 21 of Exodus chapter 3 confirms, and I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And it shall come to pass that when ye go, you're gonna go, ye shall not go empty. Look at somebody and say, business transaction. But every woman, these are the Egyptian women now, those who have enslaved you, every woman shall borrow of her neighbor for you, and of her that sojourneth in her house, jewels. That sounds like a business concept. Silver, jewels of gold and raiment, and ye shall put them upon your sons, legacy. You're not keeping the jewels for yourself, but you are preparing for the next generation. Upon your sons and your daughters, and ye shall spoil the Egyptians. Even Calvary was a business transaction. When Christ laid down his life for the sins of the entire world, the past, the present, and the future, it was a transaction. It was the greatest business exchange that was ever consummated. Many times we don't even fathom what does it mean for a God, first of all, to agree to the idea of being inserted in human form. You're not thinking, come on, think with me. I'm all powerful, but I've got to exist in flesh for you. I'm all knowing, but I'm limited by the constructs of this human consciousness called a mind. I'm talking about Christ. I'm talking about the business transaction. I can be everywhere at the same time, in all times, but I'm stuck in this body. You don't know the price that Christ paid for you. We're talking about business. We're talking about economics. It was the greatest economic transition that ever occurred. Not only did Christ impact the present time, but he impacted past, present, and future. Look at somebody and say, I am called. Come on, you can do better than that. Say, I am called to impact past, present, and future. Let me give you an example. Many of us have heard of a man by the name of Bill Gates. Bill Gates created an operating system that essentially impacted how technology would be perpetuated in the past. He eliminated old technology. He is allowing you to maximize current technology while conditioning your mind for future technology. So when God gives you an idea, when God gives you a business, when God gives you a witty invention, it's not just for now, but it should shift the past, the present, and the future. Look at somebody next to you and say, I am money. I am.